Good afternoon to all of you. Dear students, you are welcome in this class. Today we are going to discuss organic farming with respect to its impact on different aspects like impact on food quality, impact on soil health, what happens to biodiversity or water, maybe underground water or surface water, how this organic farming affects different spheres. And also we will see different components of organic farming. Up to now, if you remember that we started with history of organic farming in world and India, then we could know about initiatives taken by the government of India and some states. And then we had another lecture on what is organic farming, what are the differences in organic agriculture and farming, meaning of organic and different variants of organic farming. I've also shown you some definitions of organic farming, principles, differences with conventional farming, and we could see current status, data of the world, data of India. And last time we have also seen need for organic farming. Why we need organic farming? Like we know decline in factor productivity, unsafe food, and conventional farming is related to some pollution of the environment and eventually climate change. And we have seen some decline in nutritional quality of food, GM crops, why GM crops are not allowed. And in the last slide yesterday, you have seen some questions were there, which are very common questions, like why fertilizers are not allowed in organic farming, why there is increase in biodiversity, etc. There were several questions like sustainability. So up to now, we covered this much, and now we will see impact of organic farming. When once people are doing organic farming or farmers are doing organic farming, what kind of impacts or influences it is leaving on different systems. But just see the learning objective of today's class to understand the impacts of organic farming practices on food quality, crop productivity. Many times we get confused whether we get more yield in organic farming than conventional yields or whether the productivity is same or less. So today we will see this kind of debatable issue or controversial issue, and then how organic farming impacts the climate, soil health, and economics. Is it profitable or not? And we'll also have some understanding of components, different components of organic farming, or which are also called as pillars of organic farming. So some terminology, agroecology, many times many people take synonymous to organic farming. That this is the best example of agroecology, where the best practices or best thing of ecology is combined in crop production. So it is a whole system approach to agriculture that applies ecology to the design and management of sustainable production systems. Very simple. Application of ecological principles into our agro-ecosystem or agro-systems is your agroecology. Buffer zone is an area located between organic farm or to the conventional farm. So in between two farms, you need to keep some separation of two units. So you need some area which is specified by the standard. Organic standards, they specify that how much area should be there. That particular zone is your buffer zone. Crop rotation, climate change, you understand very well what is stubble. Crop stubble is a part of the mature crop, such as base of the stem, roots left on the field after harvest. So stubbles are different from crop residues. So crop residues, when you harvest a crop, you take out it, and from this harvested produce, you remove the grain or economic part. And that is your residue, crop residue, which is like rice, straw, and so on. Stubble means they are still there in the field. When you harvest the crop, remove the above ground part, and still some part of the plants are attached to the soil. root is also there and some part of the shoot. So that is known as stubble. For example, if you harvest mustard, if you harvest pigeon pea, if you harvest sugar cane, so they are harvested slightly from above the ground, say 5 to 10 centimeter, and this remaining part is your stubble. Polyculture is a field or cropping system with multiple interacting crops or pertaining to such a field. Polyculture is kind of multiple cropping, where you are growing different kind of crops in the same time or at different times in rotation. That is your polyculture. Smoother crops are actually kind of cover crops which control the growth of the weeds and they cover the ground. Agrochemical, you understand. Soil biodiversity is the variety and variability. Please do remember these two words, variety and variability of living organism present in the soil is considered as soil biodiversity. Means in a particular area, in a particular volume of soil, how many different varieties and their variability exist in the soil. That is your soil biodiversity. Heavy metals. There are many definitions of heavy metal, and if you want to define them, these are called as natural elements with high atomic mass and their high density, at least 5 gram per cubic centimeter or higher. So this is the definition of heavy metal, which you can remember. Natural elements with high atomic mass and their high density, at least 5 gram per cubic centimeter or higher. Examples are cadmium, cobalt, chromium, copper, iron, mercury, manganese, molybdenum, lead, and zinc, etc. Rhizosphere, you know, it is the zone near the plant roots. Nutrient concentration versus content. Many times we use them synonymously, and which is wrong. For nutrient content, we should express concentration in the plant system if we are expressing it on the basis of the just let me clear it. Concentration is usually expressed in grams per kilogram. This is concentration, gram per kilogram or milligram per kilogram of dry or fresh weight. Content is usually expressed as weight per unit area. That is content. Suppose nitrogen is 180 kilogram per hectare, then it is content. It is not concentration. If nitrogen is 10 gram in 1 gram dry matter, then it is concentration. That is the difference. Concentration is weight by weight and content is usually weight by area. Rhizobacteria means bacteria living in the rhizosphere or near the roots. Soil organic matter, humidification, microbial biomass. So these are the terminology, you should know it. And soil carbon sequestration. So this is important. Carbon sequestration means harvesting and storage of carbon in the soil. So where from you can harvest, it is there in the air or atmosphere. Who can harvest? Green plants can harvest. And how these green plants can give to soil? They can directly give to soil by root exudations, or they can indirectly shed their leaves or leave their roots in the soil. It can come, and then these plants can be eaten by animals and brought back in the form of their excreta. And so there are many important steps in this carbon sequestration. So the process by which carbon dioxide from the atmosphere is converted to organic carbon by photosynthesis, and decomposition of that plant carbon into organic matter is stored in the soil. So what fraction of the carbon dioxide fixed by the plants is brought back into the soil, and in soil, how much of that is converted into humus, how much of that is converted into permanent kind of storage. If you apply manure and this carbon dioxide is again decomposed and escape to the environment. So this is not carbon sequestration, means that carbon should stay in soil for a very long time. Then we can say it is soil carbon sequestration. So the process by which carbon dioxide from the atmosphere is converted to organic carbon by photosynthesis and the decomposition of that plant carbon into organic matter and then stored in the soil. Crop waste, animal waste, organic waste, these are the terminology important for this course, you can see. And litter is loose organic debris, uh, leaves or twigs, etc., on the surface of the earth, consisting of freshly fallen or slightly decomposed organic material. So litter generally comes from different plant parts and it spreads on the surface of the soil. So it is just like leaf fall can happen. That is litter. Roughage is the bulky and coarse plant materials that are high in fiber, having low proportion of nutrients and total digestible nutrients. The agricultural students, those who did BSc Agriculture and Animal Husbandry, they must have studied some courses on animal husbandry, and there they teach about roughage. Now, today, we have come to the main point, that is, what are the impacts of organic farming on food quality or safety. Part of this is already discussed with you. I have informed you that organic foods are relatively much safe than the conventional food, and also nutritional quality of organic food is better than the conventional food, and then productivity, income or economics or profitability of organic farming, what happens to soil and ecosystems, climate and air, ground or surface water. So we will deal impact of organic farming in respect to these points. Starting with the quality, I think some of you might be knowing what is meta-analysis. Meta-analysis is a kind of literature survey of the literature, and through which we can know the opinion of the previous research work on a particular topic. Suppose, to make you understand, I give you a very simple example that sometimes you use two kind of fertilizer. Suppose you use urea and other person is using ammonium sulfate. So now we want to see whether urea is good or ammonium sulfate is good. For this, we will survey the literature. We will find out the literature on ammonium sulfate and urea. And we will see that how many references, how many number of references are saying that urea is better and how many are saying that ammonium sulfate is better. So in this case, you can just count. In the olden days, people used to count. Suppose there are 100 references saying urea is better and 80 references saying your ammonium sulfate is better. Then we could draw a conclusion that urea is better than ammonium sulfate. One particular practice, you can compare different practices or any aspect where research work has been done. So that was kind of biasness people used to do, but now some statistical technique have come up, and which is meta-analysis. In this case, certain rules and guidelines are followed in the survey of the literature. When you extract the literature on a topic, so there are certain guidelines that what kind of abstracts you have used, CAB abstract have you used, what were your keywords, how you searched it, and there are different control systems so that you cannot be biased in surveying the literature or collecting the literature. And then some statistical tools are available that will analyze the data and give you the result. Finally, you will know that which practice is good or which is bad. So that is simply, for simplicity, meta-analysis is just kind of literature review, and by using some statistical technique, and through that, you can know the status of the knowledge, means where the opinion lies, what people consider is a good practice and what is a bad practice. So through statistics, you can prove it. That is your meta-analysis. So this study was published in 2009 in American Journal of Clinical Nutrition, Nutritional Quality of Organic Foods, a systematic review. Systematic review is also known as meta-analysis. They have the same meaning, only means the words are different, but meaning is same. You call it a systematic review or you call it meta-analysis. So in this case, they did meta-analysis. They found some references, a number of studies And you can see in the first column, it is the nutrient or category. And they wanted to see through literature whether the organic foods are superior in quality, compared to conventional food. That was the main purpose. Just they make comparison of the nutritional quality of two different kind of food. One was organic, other was conventional. So in the first column, these are the food constituents or nutrient category. Number two column, number of studies, how many studies of previous references they have used. Number three, number of comparison, how many comparisons were made. Standard difference, probability, and then you finally your high concentration in organic or conventional. They compared. So here just you see column number one and last column. First and last column, see the nitrogen. So nitrogen was more in conventional food compared to organic food. Vitamin C, phenolic compounds, magnesium, calcium, there were no difference. Means the content in organic as well as conventional was same about this kind of nutrients, these kind of nutrients. Then comes the phosphorus. So phosphorus was more in organic and less in conventional food. Similarly, other elements like potassium, zinc, total soluble solids, copper, etc., there was no difference. Means organic food or conventional food both contained the equal quantity of these materials. And the titrable acidity was more in organic food than in conventional food. So titrable acidity is normally loved by some people in certain food items, like your tomato, or some people like sour or acidic kind of tomato. So this may be a good quality. And phosphorus was more in organic and nitrogen was more in conventional. So these were their results. And based upon this, they have concluded that there is no difference in food quality of organic and conventional food. So it was their view. And then suddenly this paper was from America, and this news or this research paper became viral that time. And it went to many countries, and there was a headline in Times of India, why to pay more? There is no difference in quality of organic food and conventional food. So later on, it was found that this study was funded by some people who had interest in chemical farming or conventional farming. So sometimes scientists also make compromises with their results. So that is why now each journal, every journal now, international journal, is asking several questions in the end when you see some kind of interest. And there are some more columns. They want you to declare the source of funding also when you publish a paper. So at the same time, it came in year 2009, but it was from America, and another review came in the same year in 2009, and it was from France. So this review also made, and they were independent reviews, but published in different journals and by different peoples. This Denis Leron, he had interest in organic farming, and he reviewed the literature in conventional style. He did not use meta-analysis technique, and he made some conclusions like this. Organic plant products contain more dry matter and minerals. So one was saying there is no difference, but he is saying that organic plant products contain more dry matter and minerals and antioxidants, that is phenols and salicylic acid. So here I want to tell you these antioxidants are some kind of chemical compounds in the plant which are useful for human beings. They clean our blood, they remove the free radicals from our blood, so they have a lot of health benefits, these antioxidants. Normally colored fruit and colored vegetables have higher levels of antioxidants, like your lycopene in tomato. It is considered as antioxidant. So there may be many more in purple grapes, or there may be some colored other carrot, etc., some colored vegetables. They have relatively higher levels of antioxidants. So they were more in organic food. And then next was organic animal products. They contain more polyunsaturated fatty acids. This was quite interesting. And then I further reviewed this contention, and I seen 5, 6 more reviews on this subject from animal science. Suppose there are two categories of animals. One is your organic animal, organic cow. Here means cow raised by organic methods. So organic cow I mean that only. So other is conventional cow. So you take out milk from both the cow. The milk of organic cow contained more ratio of polyunsaturated fatty acid than the other cow. Means ratio of polyunsaturated fatty acid to saturated fatty acids, and it was more, ratio was high in organic cow compared to conventional cow. So there are some health benefits also for in the animal product, and 94 to 100% of organic food does not contain any pesticide residues. So this means that they are safe, organic food are safe. We already discussed yesterday. Now you see here that 94 to 100%. Why it is not 100%? That means 6% of the products can have some pesticide. 6% of the organic products can also have some pesticides. So why it is like this? Do you have any answer to this? Anybody can tell why these organic products may still contain some pesticide residues? Where from they will come? Under organic system. Anybody? Kamlesh, are you there? Kadapa? Hello?
Yes, sir. Hello, sir.
Yeah, please. Do you have any idea? Just give some idea, if anybody is listening to me, that why this 6% chance are there that the organic products may also have pesticide residue. Where from they can come? Any guess?
I think from soil, sir.
From soil. And where they will come in soil? This is true. It may come from soil, but where from they will come in soil? Either you have applied them or they have come with the rain. So it is likely that some pesticides, some residues may come through the rainwater, because rainfall, sometimes air also contains some concentration of pesticides. They gets evaporated or they gets mixed with the air when you are making some foliar spray, etc. So anyway, but there are different ways by which pesticide can be in the air. So also some other chemicals, other toxic chemicals can be there in the air, and upon rainfall, they will come. Yeah.
Sir, maybe if any producing organic material, any crop residue or any other material, for using organic material, maybe some pesticide is coming.
I fully agree. I fully agree to this. That is very good comment.
Yes,
so I was just about to say that, and you have said it. I'm very happy that you got some reason for it. That is very true. So there may be different sources. One source I told you, it could be rainwater. Other could be your irrigation water. Sometimes we are using groundwater for irrigation, and I need not to say that groundwater contains some pesticide also. And also this canal water. Sometimes farmers may use canal water or even river water. If you use Jamna river water in organic farming, in organic feed, then I'm sure some pesticide will come to the organic food. And definitely what he said about the manures or crop residues or organic residues, which have been taken from conventional farming, because this farmyard manure is allowed if it is produced by animals that are not organic. Means conventional animal, whatever manure they are producing, certification agency normally allows in India. So that way pesticide may come. So very good. Now we go ahead. So organic vegetables contain far less nitrate, about 50% less. So that is a truth. You will believe this point because leafy vegetable, mostly like spinach or your methi. What is the English name of methi? Methi.
Fenugreek, sir. Fenugreek.
Fenugreek. Thank you. Fenugreek and your spinach, your cabbage, these are leafy vegetables. So they may contain far more nitrate, 50% more nitrate. You see, there is imbalanced fertilization in our country. People apply more of urea than phosphorus and potash. So this excess urea may result in accumulation of nitrate in certain vegetables, and that is harmful for human beings, especially infants. It can cause some disease, blue baby syndrome, something like that. And so definitely, because in organic systems, the supply of nutrient is very balanced. There is no excess nitrate, there is no excess phosphorus. So nutrients are taken up almost in right proportions under organic systems. So that way, organic vegetables contains less nitrate than the conventional vegetable. It is a fact. Now, one more study came in some journal, British Journal of Nutrition, and it proved that antioxidants were higher in organic foods. It was also a meta-analysis. You see a systematic literature review and meta-analysis. It is in the title. So they proved that antioxidant level higher in organic foods, like these are different names of the antioxidants. Like phenolic acids, they are 19% more in organic than in conventional. Flavonones, 69%, still beans, how to call, 28% flavonones, flavones, 26%, flavonoids, nols, 50%, anthocyanin, 51%. So if you take average of all these materials, all these compounds, then it comes out to be 50%. So we can say on an average, there are 50% higher levels of antioxidants in organic food compared to conventional food. See the title, higher antioxidant and lower cadmium concentration and lower incidence of pesticide residues in organically grown crops. Incidence of pesticide is there, but lower incidence. So this is quite interesting paper. So quality, if somebody asks, I think by now you should be clear that organic products are better in nutritional quality than the conventional products. At least you get 50% antioxidants. I reviewed a lot of papers and I found that most papers say that organic foods contain more antioxidants than conventional food. And that is why in many countries now people are doing research on human cancer. They are feeding organic food to some people, say 100 people, and 100 cancer patients are being given conventional food, and they are doing studies. And very shortly, we may have some results from those studies. So these are the antioxidants which have health benefits. So overall, you have seen how the quality is different in conventional and organic food. Now we go to the yield. Comparing the yield of organic and conventional agriculture. So most of the time, you will find that there are two groups. One group of people have one opinion that organic farming overall is good. Others say that no, it is bad. So that is why in this case also, in case of yield, mostly people who do not like organic farming, they like to criticize it, that it has low yield. But those who are organic, I can call them green people. Green people say that yields are same or high. So such kind of things are happening, but we need to believe the science. We need to believe the results from the field which are published. We can rely upon this, and no other journal is very authentic or very very unbiased like a journal like Nature. So this report was published in Nature. And they have also compared several studies, previous studies, and they have come out with conclusion that under organic systems, the yields are lower by 5% or say 13% to 34% lower yields in organic systems. At least for first 3-4 years, there is reduction in the yield. So you get less yield in organic system over the or compared to the conventional system. The range may be, I can modify it, 15 to 35%. I can say there is reduction in yield in organic system by 15 to 35%. So this range, 15 to 35%, depends upon the region, the climate, and many situations. In some cases, reduction of yield will be more. In some cases, reduction of yield will be less. So there may be two situations. One situation can be rain-fed situation. Rain-fed situation, or you may have some low input agriculture. There are certain areas in the world or in our country where use of pesticide and use of fertilizer is minimum. If you convert that area into organic, the reduction in yield will be minimum because it is very close to already organic practices. So there, in that case, yield reduction will be less. There may be another case of intensive agriculture. Take example of Punjab or Haryana, or maybe any other part where you have very high use of inputs like fertilizers and pesticides. So if you have very heavy use of pesticides or fertilizers in soil, under those conditions, if you convert to organic, then the yield reduction will be much more. Maybe it may be 35% or 40%. That is why this range, 13 to 34% or 15 to 35%, depending upon climate, region, rainfall, soil, etc. And the best is management. Heavy input use, heavy reduction in yield, low input use, low reduction in yield when you convert to organic. Now I have a question. Why there is more reduction in yield when you convert from conventional to organic in high input use agriculture or Punjab agriculture? If I give you two examples, one is Punjab agriculture. There you want to convert to organic, and other is Rajasthan. There you want to convert to organic. In one, more yield reduction, in other, less yield reduction. So what is the reason? Tell me the reason. This question is to you. Any idea? Hello?
Hello,
Any idea why this variability? Could you get the question? Could you get the question or not? Just give your idea, maybe wrong or right. It is not necessary that every time we may be right or wrong. Don't bother about that. Just have some guess. You will not get any punishment for wrong answer, or you will not get any reward for a right answer. So just express yourself. It is the time to express yourself. I will not feel you low if you give wrong answer. Any guess?
Sir, maybe in a chemical farming we are providing more nutrients compared to organic. So when we are making it organic, sir, the plants are unable to get the sufficient nutrients.
Good.
So in the initial years we find it low, sir. But when we are practicing it to organic farming, sir, in the later years, the plant will be able to get it from the manures or soil, which from the native soil itself.
Good. Any other view?
Sir, hello,
Yeah.
sir.
Yeah.
Actually, in conventional method, due to continuous use of chemical fertilizer, I think soil physical properties is continually degraded.
Okay.
So if suddenly we want to do organic farming, so plant cannot able to uptake sufficient nutrient, and ultimately plant growth and development are suffering. and finally yield reduction also, sir.
Good. So why physical property only? Why you think that only physical properties are degraded? Why not other properties? If you continuously do heavy or input intensive agriculture, then other properties will also decline. So I can just add to that, you are right. So in this case, thank you very much to all. Now I explain to you. So in this intensive agriculture, you are using, definitely you are using more of fertilizers and more of pesticides. So first casualty is biodiversity. Below ground biodiversity and above ground biodiversity that has been killed. So very little microbial activities are there in the soil. If you have inorganic food, if you have chemical food, so those organisms have become very lazy. Their activity is not much because they get ready-made food. So they will not do their job of decomposition. Why these organisms are decomposing the food? They want actually nutrients. That is why they want to extract the nutrients from the organic residues. Thereby, they are interested to decompose that material. Just to take, they are not helping us actually. They want their own food. That is why they are decomposing the organic matter. So overall, in those kind of areas, the soil microbiology or organisms have reduced. Their activity has been reduced. And when you convert to organic, it takes a lot of time to regain their activity because their population is very small and you are converting to organic. And in organic, the nutrient supply can come only when those microbes become active because they will provide the nutrient by decomposition of organic matter. So who will decompose the organic matter when you convert Punjab soil to the organic? So this is one reason. Other is most of the time these soils have been adapted. Soil have been adapted to chemical input. Now they want chemical input. You know there are some people who are addicts to certain things. So this soil has got kind of addiction of taking your poisons into it, and then it is producing. So every time it needs more and more poison. See, people in some states in India, they are addicted to drugs. So every time they want more and more drugs, their quantity or consumption increases with the time. So similarly, because this poisonous thing, these kind of things, people become addicted. Similarly, your soil has become addicted. I give you one example, very interesting example. That one person from Delhi, he went to Shimla and he has fallen sick. He has fallen sick and many doctors came. The best of the best doctors came and treated him, but they could not succeed in his treatment. And then one Jhola Chap doctor, one street doctor, you know, in India we have lot of street doctors everywhere. So one street doctor came and he inquired where from this person has come. They said he's from Delhi. Okay, you are from Delhi. Then bring 4 or 5 motorcycles and put some smoke. So then motorcycles were brought and it was smoked, the air was smoked, and then he felt better. So because that person was living in Delhi, and Delhi means pollution, the air is totally polluted. So now if suddenly you get a fresh air, good air in Shimla, then you will fall sick because you are used to, your system has adapted to your bad air. And now if you go to good air, you may fall sick. One more example I can give you. By my own children, they use your this polythene milk, you know, milk which is packaged in polythene, which is from several companies, Mother Dairy, this dairy, that dairy. So now you are also drinking. You will also drink when you go outside your home. So they love to drink that milk, and when they go to our village and they get the original milk directly from the cow or buffalo, they say this is not good. You see, nakli means nakli things. They are adapted so much to the duplicate things that they love them. If you give them the real thing or original thing, they dislike it. So that is happening. If you give fertilizers to the soil, it is happy. It is always happy. If you are giving pesticide, it is happy. But suddenly, if you give it good food, that is organic food, then it takes time. It takes time to get the real thing or to get the good things. So you can go on thinking on these lines. So this is the reason that microbiology has been disturbed in these soils, and because of that, it takes time to recover. Now, after yield, so in yield, I will come back again to the yield. Yield continues. In developed countries, average yield losses are under organic management range from 0 to 20%. So it varies with the region, it varies with the soil. Pretty and Hine surveyed 208 projects in developing tropical countries in which contemporary organic practices were introduced and found that yield decline was about 5 to 10%. So it varies with the person to person that where they made the study. But overall message, see one more point, 5 to 10% in irrigated crops and by 50 to 100% in rain-fed crops. Average yield increased by 5 to 10% in irrigated crops, maybe in developing, some other developing countries, may not be India. Now see this interesting picture from Rodale Institute. I told you about Rodale Institute in USA. So comparison of FST farming system trial, that is organic and conventional systems. So you can see there are two kind of bars here, green and gray. So see the yield. It was an average of several years in maize yield. So you see the yields, pounds per acre per year, were same in green, in this organic and conventional. See the yields, they are the same. And see the profit, more in green, that is organic, and less in gray. See the energy input. Energy input is less in organic and more in conventional. Greenhouse gas emission is less in organic, more in conventional. So it really concludes everything about organic farming. Productivity, it is same, but it was after 4 or 5 years. Productivity same, profit more in organic, so it is organic farming is profitable. Energy input is less. Less means less cost. Cost of cultivation will be less if your energy input is less. And also pollution will be less if your energy input is less. So, and see another gray line in energy. So you are consuming more energy, means cost of cultivation will be high and pollution will be high. So finally, the fourth one you see, greenhouse gas emission is less in organic, more in conventional. So these are the conclusions from farming system trials of USA, Rodale Institute. We also got some experience in India in IRA, and we started organic farming in 2003. In 2003, first 3 years were conversion period or transitional period, and since 2006, this experiment was organic. It continues up to 2016 on rice wheat system, rice wheat mung bean and rice wheat system. So now after 2016, we have taken maize, soybean, and again come back to rice. So this field is available in IRE, anybody can see. When you come, you can have a visit to this field, long-term organic farming experiment. And in this, we have taken 2 cropping systems, rice wheat, mung bean, and 7 nutrient management practices, control, FIM, vermicompost, etc. There are different combination of nutrient management, nutrient sources, and something here. I want to show you the yield. There was no reduction in the yield in this case. So you see rice yield is starting from 2006, 4.26 in the first year, because 3 years we got conversion period. During that period, the field was adjusted to organic. So in those 3 years, we did not use any chemical pesticides, so on. And then the crop or the soil recovered well, and you see the yield is somewhere around 4 tons average. If you take the average of all years, so from the very first year, yield was good yields were obtained in organic rice. And remember, this is basmati rice. The first column, this is basmati rice. This is not hiding variety of rice. Hiding varieties of rice can give you 5 tons, 6 tons, or up to 7 tons yield per hectare in India. But basmati variety normally yield 4 to 5 tons per hectare rice. So it is somewhere around 4 tons. Average is 4 tons. And wheat also. But in wheat, we got lower yield throughout, because wheat yield is also similar to rice yield. Or in this case, wheat yield should be more because it is a high-yielding variety. So wheat yield, a high-yielding variety of wheat compared with basmati. So it is expected that wheat will give you more yield, but we got less yield. The average was 3.7 tons per hectare. Normally in IRE, you can get 5.5, 6 or 6.5 tons per hectare wheat yield. So what I mean to say here is that Kharif season crops, the yield reduction is very less or practically no. But in winter season crop, yield reduction is always there in organic farming. You need to remember this fact. Yield reduction is more in winter season than in summer season or in rainy season. See another cropping system, rice, wheat, moong. Here the yield of rice was 4.68. On the bottom you can see blue color, 4.68 tons per hectare rice yield. And without moong bean, you get 4.1. In the same row, you can see 4.1 tons per hectare. So it was about 0.58 tons extra yield because of moong bean. So this legume, inclusion of legume is good to increase the yield of rice. Similarly for wheat, it has become 4.05 from 3.7. So this increase was mainly because of inclusion of moong bean. So from this table, you can get a message that basmati yields are almost close to the conventional. I'm not showing you conventional yields, but I have the data and I know it is very close to the conventional yield, this rice yield. Our wheat yield was about 1 ton less than the conventional wheat. So in winter season, you got less yield of crop in organic system compared to conventional system. I will prove it after 1 or 2 slides. Or in the same slide, you can see this data is from Modipuram. In Modipuram, you have Indian Institute of Farming System Research. In that institute, they have one project which is known as Network Project on Organic Farming. Network Project on Organic Farming, and they are doing research since 2004. And they have about 17 to 18 centers all over the country, and they are doing coordinated trials on different aspects of organic farming, including nutrient management, weed management, insect pest and disease management. And they are also developing the technologies for the production of organic crops. So anybody interested can see the website of Network Project on Organic Farming, Modipuram. So this is their result, and you can see the blue color, positive organic. Positive organic means where after 5 to 6 years, where you get increase in the yield. So these data are after 5 to 6 years of conversion to organic farming. This is not first year data. So now you start from basmati rice. So basmati rice, they got 104% yield. 104% yield over the conventional, means 4% increase in there. In normal rice, it was 100%. In maize, there was 10% increase. In sorghum, 114 means 14% increase. Moong, all these examples. In pea, you get 125% yield of organic. That is 25% increase. See the case of wheat. There were 55 studies. This second column means number of studies or experiments. So in wheat, you get 93%, 7% less than the conventional yield. So in sunflower, 99. And see lentil is, these are all winter crops. Lentil, 12%, potato, 32%. Sorry, these are number of studies. In lentil, you get 92%. Means 8%, 5%. Radish, 25% reduction. So you try to understand it, and the conclusion of this table can be seen here. This is the conclusion of the former table. Modipuram, they say number 1, yield of basmati rice, soybean, garlic, peanuts, cauliflower, and tomato crops was 4 to 6% higher than the conventional farmings. And it was completion of 8 crop cycles under network project on organic farming. So in these 8, you can reduce 3 years of conversion. 3 years of conversion. Now, moong, onion, chili, cabbage, turmeric yields were 7 to 14% higher over conventional farming. The wheat, mustard, lentil, potato, rajma, they are mostly winter crops, were 5 to 8% lower than the yield obtained from their conventional farming. Amount of biocarbon increased by 22% in 6 years from organic farming. Number of microbes increased at all the centers of the project. So this is how, if somebody asks you about the yield, so you can say at least 5 to 10% yield of or in organic farming one can obtain after 5th year. After 5th year, one can obtain, and there is reduction of yield in winter crops in organic system by 5 to 10%, and you can give name of certain crops like wheat, mustard. So generally, summer crops, rainy season crops, they yield 5 to 10% more over the conventional after 5th year. Now, economics, someday you have seen the prices of atta, 200 or 250 kgs. So definitely, if farmer gets good share in consumers' money, so it is really economic. So average gross margins from organic cotton were 30 to 40%. These are gross margins, and 10 to 20% is the reduction in the cost, and 20% organic premium. Just believe I have 20% premium is extra price over the conventional product. So overall, one can achieve 10 to 20% higher income from agricultural activity. So this is very conservative estimate, 10 to 20% profits by organic farming over conventional. So now impacts on soil, how this organic farming will impact the soil, reduce soil erosion. So can anyone explain me how this organic farming will reduce the soil erosion? How organic farming will result in reduction in soil erosion?
Sir, maybe due to the formation of aggregates, stable aggregates, by addition of organic matter.
Yeah, it is very simple. I don't know why you people feel any confidence in your memories or on your brain, on your knowledge. You should have confidence. You should come forward. Why you are shy? Most of you are shy. Express yourself, maybe right or wrong, but mostly you are right. You do not have confidence. I may be wrong. You have that feeling. Please do not have that feeling. It is to all of you. So that is very true because you are using organic matter. More of organic matter is used in organic farming, and ultimately this organic matter makes humus. Finally, after decomposition, it will make humus. And what humus does, it binds your soil particles. So there is improvement in soil structure. And definitely, if your soil structure is improved, it is not single grain in structure, you have aggregates, you have some weight in the soil. So it will not lose it. So soil erosion will be increased. That is there. So naturally, you are adding organic manures every time. So your soil organic matter will increase. Your fertility will increase. So organic matter increases your fertility by 2 ways. Number 1, or by 3 ways, by improving physical, chemical, and biological properties of the soil. I need not to explain much. You will understand. And in the longest trials so far, 150 years at Rothamsted Research, soil organic matter and soil total nitrogen levels increased by 120% in organic manure plots and only by about 20% in the plots employing NPK fertilizer. So here message is the organic matter content increases in soil if you continuously apply NPK fertilizer or chemical fertilizer. In that case also organic matter increases. But increase in 150 years was just 20%. And if you continuously use organic matter in the soil, then the increase was 120%. So increase was more, increase in soil organic matter was more when you use organic manures in soil, and it was much less when you use NPK fertilizer. This is the message. Higher microbial biomass, naturally more food. Higher organic matter addition means more food for microbes. So their growth will be more. So it enhances microbial activity by 20 to 30%. Enhanced aggregate stability. This is your point. And water retention. Once your aggregation is there in the soil, structure is improved, and then your retention of water is more in that soil. So, retention of water, you can see this example. As your organic matter increases in soil, your water retention in soil from 0 to 30 centimeter depth, in 0 to 30 centimeter depth, you see how this organic matter is related to retention of water in soil. If you have 0.5% organic matter, your soil may have 80,000 liters of water. If it is doubled, then your water retention is also doubled. So you see, the water storage is increasing. Up to 6% there is increase in this case. I don't know about after 6% organic matter, what will happen. So you can see that as organic matter levels increase, water retention or water holding capacity of the soil increases. So therefore, it is very interesting. Under organic systems, because you are adding organic manure, so water can be retained for long time. So in this case, even suddenly there is drought, there is less water availability. Under those conditions, you will get more yield in organic farming than in conventional farming. Suddenly, if you have drought, so because the retention of moisture is more in organic soils, organic soil here means organic farming soils compared to conventional soils. So therefore, these crops or these soils can tolerate this drought better than the conventional farming. This is one. Take the case of irrigated farming. If your soil can store more water, less losses by percolation, then naturally you will need less irrigation. So it will reduce the number of irrigation under irrigated condition, and it will help the crop to tolerate the drought condition in dry lands. So this is advantages, and this advantage is derived mainly because of organic matter levels in the organic soils. Now, enhanced microbial activity, earthworm activities, so these beneficial nematodes are more. So this has been reported that you get more number of beneficial nematodes. So nematodes are very, very important for decomposition of organic matter. There are different trophic levels of food web. If you see the soil food web, there are different trophic levels starting from green plant to the birds, or in between you get fungi, nematodes, or your other organism, arthropods in the soil food web. You can see anywhere in any book how the soil food web happens in soil. You can see any picture and you will find 4 or 5 trophic levels. This nematode is there at 3 trophic levels. Means there may be nematodes which can eat bacteria, and there can be nematodes which can eat nematodes also. And at other levels, there may be nematodes that can feed fungi, and there may be fungi that can feed on nematode. So such kind of food webs are there in the soil, and nematodes are there on the most of the trophic levels. So nematodes have very important role in decomposition of organic matter. So organic farming reduces the plant parasitic nematodes. The harmful nematode population is reduced. There are a number of papers on this aspect, that application of organic manure to the soil reduces nematode population, particularly parasitic nematode population is reduced. Even if you take legumes in the rotation, the population of harmful nematode reduces in the soil. And it is also interesting to note that when you add organic manure in the soil, it releases carbon dioxide. And this carbon dioxide selectively kills some harmful organism. There are reports that this carbon dioxide can kill certain disease-causing fungi. However, it does not affect the useful fungi. So there are reports like this. Now, impacts on groundwater and ecosystem. So enhance groundwater and surface water and air quality. Because this addition of organic matter will not pollute, you will not use chemicals, fertilizer. Therefore, environmental pollution will be less. Your groundwater will be safe. Your surface water will be safe. And there is a reduction in the N2O emission. Nitrous oxide emission is less because nitrous oxide is made from nitrate. These nitrates are nitrates produce your nitrous oxide. So there is no accumulation of nitrate in the soil under organic conditions. If you apply urea within 8 days or within 7 days, all the urea will be converted into nitrate. The concentration of nitrate will be too high. And then if the conditions favor, then you will have this denitrification, particularly when you have anaerobic soil. So in those soils, your denitrification will be more. So this N2O emission is less from organic soil compared to conventional. Carbon sequestration is more in organic conditions, and also you get more biodiversity of the soil and also above ground borders. Now, coming to the last part of today's lecture, that is core pillars or components of organic farming. So there are 4 components of organic farming, and this is subject matter of organic farming. Nothing goes beyond these 4 things. Whether it is organic production, whether it is organic farming course, what you are studying, this is your syllabus. In this organic farming course, you need to learn organic standards, you need to learn certification or regulatory mechanism, you are required to know technology package, how to do it actually, how to practice it, whether it is production, processing, marketing, whatever is there. Everywhere you need technology package. Even you package the organic product into different materials, into bags or into some polythene material and so on. So you need technologies. So this technology package covers all sorts of technologies related to organic production, processing, transport, etc. Market network, this is also important. So this is the course or syllabus of organic farming, and they are also called as pillars of organic farming. You need to remember these 4. What are the pillars of organic farming, or what are the components of organic farming? So these are the 4 components of organic farming. Now, I have already discussed this. Organic standards and certification is the responsibility of National Program on Organic Production. I told you about in the history part, NPOP, National Program on Organic Production. It was launched in 2001, and it is internationally recognized. Most of the countries recognize our NPOP, and it is equivalent to EU and Switzerland. So most of the things are common in our program and the European Union and Switzerland program. USDA also recognize our NPOP. Here, our NPOP recognize means they accept our standards, they accept our certification, and they accept our products also. So equivalence with Canada, Japan, South Korea, and Taiwan, they will give soon. So certain countries have not recognized it, like Canada, Japan, South Korea, Taiwan, but others have recognized it. 28 accredited certification bodies. So they may change with time, 28, sometimes you will have 26. This number is not fixed. It depends upon license given by the government. So to get updated, I have shown you, you can go to APIDA website and find there the latest number of certification agencies. So out of 28, 10 are in public sector and 18 in private sector. And it is National Program on Organic Production is looked after by or operated by APIDA. APIDA means Agricultural and Processed Food Product Export Development Authority, which is part of Ministry of Commerce, Government of India. So what is job of this certification or job of APIDA? It offers certification in crop production. So besides standard, development of standard is one responsibility. Other responsibility of APIDA is certification. So certification in the area of crop production, wild harvest collection like your herbs or medicinal plant or some other wild harvest or forest harvest, forest products, livestock and sericulture, apiculture, aquaculture, food processing, animal feed processing. So these are the areas where certification process is in operation in India. So this aquaculture, I think, includes fish also. So now organic products, if you see from farm to fork, so you get production. Suppose you start with the production. In production, you need certain standards, certain guidelines to produce something, and then somebody is doing certification of your production. Then sometimes some of the products can be processed, processing can happen, and then again you need to know standards in processing, and then certification process of processing also required. And then packaging, whether it is your raw material or processed material, you need to go for processing. So standards are available for packaging also. You need to follow those standards. What material can be used for packaging, what is allowed, what is not allowed. So you need to know standards of packaging, and then somebody need to certify it. So you can see certification is up to this stage, from production, processing, packaging, up to this, you need your standards and certification. And once it is certified, you can sell it in the market, then the market. So from marketing, it will reach to the consumer, to the fork. So we start with, in brief, I will just introduce you to organic standards. As I usually say, these are the do's and don'ts of inorganic farming guidelines. And certain guidelines are officially laid down in a document. This is a document that guides the production, processing, and other aspects of organic products. What are the rules of conversion from conventional farming to organic farming, etc. So friends, I can end it here. I'll continue from here, organic standards in the next class. So this is over today from my side, and